We work in the door, we do what we can, we give what we have. Our doubt is our passion, and our passion is our task. The rest is the madness of art. Hello everyone, I am April Nasibog from BS Bio 2A. I am with my co-reporters, Ms. Mahades, Ms. Padilla, Mr. Cayetano, and Ms. Shasan. And we'd love to have you in our discussion as we will presenting the modern art in the 20th century. And these are the following objectives: to trace the development of arts, to summarize the history of arts, to familiarize different famous artists and their artworks. These are the various subtopics that will be covered and discussed by my co-reporters. So without further ado, let us start with the Impressionism. Did you know that Impressionists are not called as Impressionists in 1860s until about 1874? They are calling themselves the Anonymous Society of Painters and Printmakers. And yes, you heard it right. Impressionism began in 1860 and developed in France during the mid to late 19th century. Impressionists mostly painted landscapes and scenes of daily life. For instance, the Sunrise of Claude Monet, which depicts the port of Le Havre, the Lanchan of the boating party of Pierre-Auguste Renoir, a normal scene, and creates a modern-day party that portrays the youth and beauty of his friends. And the Boulevard Montmartre at night of Camille Pissarro, the image is in the public domain and tagged Paris cities, streets, and night. And lastly, the dance class of Edgar Degas. It represents the most ambitious paintings devoted to the theme of the dance. Secondly, we have Pointillism. Pointillists use the color range and subjects of the Impressionists, but with brush strokes. It is applying small dots of color to create a larger image. For example, a Sunday on La Grande Chat of George Seurat that exhibits people relaxing in a suburban park and an island. The entrance to the Grand Canal of Paul Signac that illustrates the entrance to the Grand Canal in Venice. And the couple in the street of Charles Ingres, which shows modest working-class couple in a suburban street, illustrates Ingres' desire. Lastly, the morning interior of Maximilien Luz, which depicts Luz's close friend and fellow painter Gustave Perrault getting up and dressing as morning light streams through a garret window. Thirdly, let's have Expressionism. Expressionism directly focused on the emotional response of the artist. The Expressionists became more concerned with expressing their feelings on an object. For example, the Scream of Edvard Munch. It depicts the battle between the individual and society, which evokes the jolting emotion of the encounter and exhibits a general anxiety toward the tangible world. The Der Blaue Reiter of Wassily Kandinsky. This breakthrough canvas is a deceptively simple image, a lone rider racing across a landscape. And the Large Blue Horses of Franz Marc. This shows how animals look strong and muscular at the same time. They seem tender, emotional creatures, which demonstrates Marc's sensitivity to the natural world. Lastly, the Sitting Woman with Legs Drawn Up of Egon Schiele. It shows the bold and ardent expression assertively confronts the viewer and contradicts the artistic standards of passive feminine beauty. Fourthly is the Cubism. Did you know, guys, that Cubism was the first abstract art style? The Cubists wanted to show the whole structure of objects in their paintings without using techniques. They desired to exhibit things as they really are, not just to show what they look like. For example, the Les Demoiselles d'Avignon of Pablo Picasso. It depicts 5 naked women composed of flat, splintered planes whose faces were inspired by Iberian sculpture and African masks. Tea Time of Jean Metzinger. The teacup is shown in both profile and from above, while the figure of the centrally positioned woman is shown both straight on and in profile. And Still Life with Chair Caning of Pablo Picasso. The image depicts a tabletop at a cafe. And lastly, The Conquest of the Air of Roger de Lafreniere. It shows influence from both traditional Cubism, its use of geometrical forms, and also from the Lunais Orphism in its bright color and use of circle. And lastly, the Fauvism. Fauvism is the style of Les Fauves and its first avant-garde movement of the 20th century. In Fauvism, the artist's experience of his subjects and his emotional response to nature were all more important than academic theory. For example, Woman with a Hat of Henri Matisse. The hat is characteristic of Matisse' Fauve style and depicts a half-length portrait of his wife, Amélie, in vivid and natural colors and rough, fluid brushstrokes. House Behind Trees of Georges Braque. The piece indicates a house behind trees and a rolling landscape, and brushstrokes are notably rugged with thinly layered paint application, giving a lot of depth perspective to the piece. And Pineda Acacis or Landscape of Andre Duran. Duran famously claimed to use color as a means of expressing my emotion and not as a transcription of nature. Lastly, the La Bonne de Bieva or The Joy of Life of Henri Matisse. It shows a large-scale painting showing an Arcadian landscape filled with color, forest, meadow, sea and sky, and populated by nude figures both at rest and in motion. To sum up, Impressionism, Pointillism, Expressionism, Cubism, and Fauvism have different art styles and art movements during our modern period, and we categorize them based on what it looks like. For instance, Pointillism uses point brushstrokes, which makes different art movement from Impressionism. Also, modern art have their own distinct characteristics as well as cultural influences, and therefore, art evolves over time. And that concludes our discussion in regards with our modern art in the 20th century. Thank you and may God bless us all.